The story begins in the dungeons of the Red North Ocean for adventurers at level 550 and above. Deep in the dungeons, the MC battles the three sea dragon gods. It's a level 552 boss monster. He jumps back just as the minster is about to attack him, and it ends up smashing a rock. Not only is the monster disgustingly ugly, but it is also incredibly tough and difficult. In this game, the MC's name is Ted, and he is a musketeer class at level 559. He takes aim and fires at the monster with his rifle, but it blocks with his arm. This was not enough to protect him, and he loses one of his 3 heads. The monster roars loudly from the pain of losing one head, and Ted thinks to himself that, although it looks like Cerberus, the monster will become more aggressive and the attack patterns will become more powerful as it loses its heads. Preparing to continue the battle, Ted pops a bullet pill in his mouth and gains a boost to his penetration rate and critical rate. He knows that even though he has taken out one head, he needs another method of fighting the monster because it is too dangerous to continue solo. Meanwhile, the monster prepares to counterattack and forms a magical surge of water in his hand. He throws it at Ted, who manages to dodge just at the right time before the water explodes and destroys the ground where he was standing, leaving a huge chasm. Thinking he has won, the monster starts to laugh and gloat, but Ted takes him by surprise and appears to be standing on the monster's defeated head. The monster turns to him in surprise, but it is already too late. Everything had gone according to his plan. He points his rifle at one of the remaining heads and says that he had been waiting for the right time to blow off the 2 remaining heads at once. Before he deals the final blow, he grins with a face full of satisfaction and says goodbye to the 3 sea dragon gods. Just as the monster tries one more time to react, he pulls the trigger and ends the monster once and for all. With the battle over, he jumps off the monster's body, and a system notification appears before him, telling him congratulations. He is the first in the game to defeat such a high-level boss monster alone, and he receives a new achievement naming him the Lonely Boss Hunter. Ted immediately levels up to level 601. He sits next to the body of the Sea Dragon God and decides to rest after such a hard battle. He laughs to himself, thinking that with enough effort and enough work, he can make anything work, especially considering all the money and time he had spent on figuring out how to clear the dungeon. It's only natural that he had to succeed. He had even prepared high-level trap items specifically for hunting the boss monster, Flavor's deadly poison which is even hard to obtain at auctions. Not to mention all the various cursed tools and weapons for debuffs, sacred scrolls, and even potions for doping like a crack fiend. He had spent a lot of money, almost $1 billion, just in 2 weeks. He had definitely overdone it. However, if he were to sell all of the loot he had won from defeating the Sea Dragon God boss monster, he would be able to recoup some of the money spent and even break even. But more importantly, he had finally acquired his main target from the beginning, a gemstone called the Essence of the Sea God. This deep blue gemstone that flows like water was dropped by the boss monster after defeating it. With the power of the gem, he could cool down any heat in an instant. With such a low drop rate, Ted is amazed and really glad that the gemstone dropped on HS first try. He thinks about how lucky he is today. However, he can't shake off the bad feeling he is having. In all his years of playing video games, things have never gone this smoothly for him. This virtual reality RPG that took the world by storm ever since it was released and still remains on top is called Fate Chronicle. Ted ranked up rapidly in the game due to his unique playstyle and innate talent at video games. After 3 years of playing, he became a highly skilled player ranked within the top 100 in the nation. However, he had just one problem. He was cursed with extreme bad luck. The lands he had worked so hard to build and cultivate were all destroyed in an earthquake event. In another instance, all the guild members he had worked tirelessly to gather were all involved in a tragic traffic accident a day before a saga. After a series of unfortunate events had continued to befall him and everything related to him, he finally abandoned all his affiliations, cut all ties, and decided to continue as a solo player. If only his luck was this bad also in real life, then he could live with it, but to be this unlucky only in video games, he must surely be cursed or possessed by something. But this time, all his bad luck ends today. The information he had gained was very valuable. He climbed to the Hellflame Mountain dungeon recommended for players at level 600 and above and prepared for his battle with the Inferno Orochi. This demon boss of the dungeon enters a molting state once every year. While it is in this molting period, the boss becomes weak and defenseless while in a hibernation state. However, it creates an unbreakable rock-like shell to protect itself, so it isn't completely vulnerable to outside attacks while it is resting. While he climbs the mountain, he thinks that, with the information he has obtained, he now has a method of peeling off the protective shell and waking up the weakened main body of the demon boss. When he gets to the top of the mountain, he looks around, and it is quite desolate and empty. It's the perfect place for a battle. Ted pulls out the gemstone essence of the sea god and empties its contents into the dungeon below, waking up the boss monster that lies beneath. To prepare for the battle that is coming, he drinks a lot of potions and boosts to increase his stats, and just as he gets up, the mountain begins to shake, and the demon boss emerges from the depths of the mountain dungeon with a loud roar and a level of 650. He aims his rifle at the boss monster and fires 2 shots that deal damage to the main body. Ted is satisfied with himself and acknowledges how he can deal damage to the boss even with the difference in their levels because it is weakened from molting. This angers the boss monster greatly, and its eyes glow fiery orange. It rushes at Ted and slams into the ground, but Ted narrowly escapes in the nick of time. He is surprised with how fast the boss is moving. The speed and attack power of the boss remain the same despite its weakened state. Just a slight graze had already reduced more than half of his health. The boss monster gives him no time to think and prepares its next attack. A beam of fire grows rapidly and shoots out of its mouth in the form of a breath attack. Ted manages to avoid it by firing his rifle and using the recoil from the gunshot to get further away. The beam of fire still manages to burn some of his coat. If he hadn't dodged using the recoil from his rifle shot, it would have hit him directly, and he would have been completely done for. Even in its weakened state, the level difference between him and the boss monster was still far too great, so a direct hit would mean instant death. Ted calculates that based on the level difference alone, his chance at winning the battle is only at 30%. However, he likes those odds. He looks at the monster with fresh determination in his eyes, loads up his rifle, and prepares to continue his battle with the demon boss. A few fiery trails later, Ted lays on the ground, exhausted. He cannot go on or even move a single muscle as his body is at its limit. He looks at the body of the monster lying a few feet away. He had been fighting for 2 days straight without any sleep, and it had finally taken its toll on him, but at least, he managed to defeat the demon boss. He had succeeded in the server's first ever solo raid against Inferno Orochi. Moments later, he logs out of the game and wakes up in a capsule. He stands up and stretches his body and cracks his joints. As expected, staying in a capsule for too long isn't good. He decides to get some sleep after putting all the loot he had acquired from the raids up for auction. Before he goes to bed, Ted realized that he had almost forgotten about something. He goes on his computer and uploads the 2 videos of his battles with the dungeon R-boss monsters to the internet. He thought that despite the poor view count, his future self will watch it and like it. Ted, whose real name is Amano Kyohei, left the room, hoping that he would enjoy everything. But at that moment, no one could have known what those 2 videos that he uploaded would trigger and what consequences the event would bring to him. The number of views on Ted's video grows rapidly, and eventually, the video goes viral overnight. The next day, some guys at an internet cafe discuss the video and how much it's been trending. They can't believe Ted single-handedly defeated a level 650 boss. One of them even suggests that the video must have been edited or CGI. However, his friend calls him an idiot and tells him to think about it. He explains that it's a 40-hour video, and to fake such a video would require a production budget similar to the GDP of a small country. Even Ted doesn't have that kind of money. They quickly look up the name of the guy who posted the video, and are even more surprised that it's their first time hearing about him. Surely, an unknown player who's barely in the top 100 national rankings should not be able to take on the Inferno Orochi and survive. They eventually dismiss it as a scam because Ted shouldn't have the skill to defeat a boss mob alone while using such a crappy class like the Musketeer class. Meanwhile, Ted begins his next raid in the game while simultaneously streaming it to the internet. He calls it the Hunting Strategy Stream, and explains to the viewers that his strategy for the day is hunting the Ogre King. He spots a group of unsuspecting ogres from the top of a hill and prepares to ambush them. Ted knows that approaching the group of ogres would be difficult, so he pulls out his musketeer rifle and fires a skill that blows an Ogre King's head clean off into nothing. With the commotion from taking out the first Ogre King, the rest of the group notices him. However, the cocky Ted doesn't fear them. While waiting for his skill's cooldown, and with a smile on his face, he jumps down to attack the rest of the Ogre Kings before they can counterattack.